Number one, baby! Number one album in the country, baby! Oh, 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 oh! Number one, number one, number one, number one. What you got to say to that, hater?
It's fine. I'm happy for him. I'm glad people like his music.
No, you're not. No, you don't. You're a hater. You hate him. Nav stays winning.
Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Future album, High Off Life. This is a new full-length LP from rapper and auto-crooner Future. At this point, while the hype and acclaim around Future's music may not be as large as it was in 2015 and 2017, his status is still legendary as a pioneer of this ever-evolving brand of psychedelic, vibed-out, drugged-out, auto-tuned trap. While I've never been a big Future fan up until this point, I will say his last project, The Wizard, that he put out last year, is my favorite of his so far. Some of his eccentric inflections and flows, combined with the more ambitious production and beat switches on this thing, make it a slight standout in Future's discography. I essentially hoped that upward trend would continue onto High Off Life, which is a pretty funny title knowing Future's past, knowing his lyrical content, though I can't say I went into this thing expecting a huge change in narrative or attitude, as lyrically High Off Life has more trappin', dealin', and stackin' than you could ever want. Some production from familiar faces as well, like Wheezy and TM88, also Southside and Tay Keith. And overall, this project rounds pretty much all of the bases that you would want a new Future mixtape or album to round. So there's honestly no reason that Future shouldn't be totally in his element on this record and dropping his best stuff. Just nothing but heat. One track after the next. So since that is the case, why does High Off Life have some of Future's worst stuff on it since Hendrix? Granted, the album does start pretty strong with the opener Trapped in the Sun. The ghostly, airy chord progressions hanging in the background of the instrumental are eerie as hell. Future's expressive and slurred croons throughout the verses are a total vibe. Future's refrains on the track are catchy as hell too, which is not only a bit of an earworm, but also displays the duality of the lifestyle that Future is always rapping about. I guess I also find Future's flows on High Tech really catchy as well. They are given a very stark presentation over this incredibly simple instrumental. He sounds cold-blooded as hell on that track. There's also a decent amount of vocal chemistry between him and Travis Scott on the track Solitaires. A coronavirus bar too, but it doesn't take long for the stinkers to start rolling into the track list here. That and songs that are essentially so formulaic, so by the numbers, so wash, rinse, repeat for Future. They go in one ear, out the other. They add pretty much nothing to the Future canon. Songs like Touch the Sky, Ride in Strikers, there is really nothing for me to report to you on with these songs outside of like an Andre the Giant bar and a totally forced nonsensical beat switch into a passage that actually sounds better than the first leg of the song. Then from here things begin to spiral downward. The track One of My is so understated, repetitive, and awkward, it's mind-numbing. Not only that, but the production on this one is kind of absolutely trash. The sub-bass hits on this beat sound almost randomly generated. Meanwhile, are they even in tune with the total mess of keys just like shitting on top of each other in the background so faintly that you can barely make them out anyway? Like, does Future even care what he's rapping over at this point? Meanwhile, with Hard to Choose One, this track is so redundant and structureless. The moment you've heard maybe the first 30 seconds to a minute of it, you pretty much know what's going on for the next 2 minutes. I mean, while I don't so much mind, and sometimes I enjoy Future's repetitive tracks when they are a bit more hype or aggressive, this is not one of them. I will truly, honestly never quite get comatose Future, which this song is definitely an example of and just literally does nothing for me. In total, there aren't too many features on this Future project, but still some of them did manage to be disappointing. The track featuring Young Boy Never Broke Again seemed like a contest between him and Future to see who could, I guess, strain their voice the hardest, singing sort of out of their range. Immediately after this, we have the track Harlem Shake featuring Young Thug, which is something I was excited for. Young Thug in a Future track list is usually a pick me up But what the fuck is this? Is this even Young Thug? It does not sound like Young Thug. None of the vocal acrobatics or dynamics or expressiveness, personality that you expect in a Young Thug verse is here. For the most part, it is just very one-dimensional, almost monotone. It doesn't sound like him. Did he have a cold this day? Is he struck with the corona? The AAA ad-lib is pretty generic. The flow is boring. The verse itself is painfully short. He's barely on beat for a few bars. No thanks. No thanks to this. It is refreshing, though, to hear Future go out on a limb with a few introspective tracks, Up the River, as well as Pray for a Key. The production on both tracks might be a little generic, but still, at least Future's writing does convey a real sense of tragedy. Specifically on Key, where he contrasts the lifestyle of a drug dealer against the success in the music world he has made today with a bit of a religious twist. But sadly, there's no real momentum built up past these tracks. We are welcomed to a very, very, very mixed last leg past this point. The song All Bad is a true blue banger featuring Lil Uzi Vert that is very synthy. It's very hype. In fact, it kind of sounds like a Lil Uzi Vert song just featuring Future. And even though that is the case and it sounds a little uncharacteristically zippy for a Future record, it's still nice to hear things energized a little bit in the track list. Then we have 100 Shooters, which is firing on all cylinders with quality features from Meek Mill, Doughboy. Even Future seems to be at the top of his game here. He certainly saved one of the best for last on this one. We also hear Future getting introspective once more on the track Accepting My Flaws, where I think of all the personal tracks on this record, this is the most passionately delivered and performed. But simultaneously, the tracks on this thing that should be embarrassing continue to roll out as well. Like with Too Comfortable, is Future singing on the song even in tune with the instrumental in the background? I don't think so. Although I can't totally blame him because this is a horrendous instrumental that samples like some really bad bits of banjo. If it's not banjo, I can't tell you what it is. It sounds legitimately terrible, and I guess if I was Future, I would ignore that and just focus on the beat. But again, you're Future. Nobody's forcing you to rap over these instrumentals. Find a better instrumental, Jesus. We also get once again that disgustingly lazy Life is Good track featuring Drake, which at the time it was released, it sounded like half of an unfinished Future song and half of an unfinished Drake song just slammed together into one nonsensical, pointless track. It's pretty much still that. Meanwhile, Last Name and Tycoon really bring nothing to this track list that other previously mediocre songs didn't already. For sure, there are highlights on this 70-minute record, but a vast majority of what's here could have been left on the cutting room floor or could have been redone. After The Wizard, I just don't get this sudden drop in quality here. Future's debut album isn't even 10 years old at this point. There's no reason that he shouldn't still be experimenting, evolving, and putting out his best stuff, but instead he's just running off of the fumes of copying and pasting a bunch of ideas that he helped popularize years ago. Feeling a decent 2 strong 3 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Future, High Off Life, forever.